Tell us when to start.
Tell me the buttons hit.
Hit the button now.
Boom.
Hey, boys and girls. It's time for Not Another Puckn Podcast, Comedians on Hockey, with your old pal Chris Roach, the sometimes less than personable Anthony DiDomenico, the Count of Condescension, John Truson, and the effervescent Nick Tillelli in the booth. And now,
let's talk hockey.
All right, Chris Roach, you got to right out of the box. You got to tell them why we are shorthanded today. We're playing shorthanded. We're down a couple of men. We're down 2 men, and we are shorthanded.
Shorthanded. First, we have Nick Tillelli, our engineer. He is at a wedding. Could not be with us today, but filling in.
You think he's liquored up?
He's probably half in the bag right now.
Yeah.
Filling in, we have the very competent
Says you.
Tony Walker.
He's in there touching wires. We're not sure whether he's competent.
Thank you for being with us today, Tony
Thank
Walker.
you.
There you are.
Tony, you got a show. What's your show called?
The Knock 'em Dead Comedy Radio Show.
Knock 'em Dead Comedy Radio Show. It's
Thanks for
every
the plug.
morning on Gov's Radio and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yes, I've been on that show, right?
You have called in a couple of times, yes.
A couple times when I was actually up at that hour.
Who else is on that show? Would it be Eric Shevland?
Eric Shevlin, Sally O'Neill, and myself.
Can you spell Shevland?
S.
Yeah,
H-I-T.
that's why I tap out.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, Sally was supposed to be our engineer today, but she texted me on the way here and said, I got Tony Walker for you because I have an upset stomach.
Just the thought of being our engineer gave her an upset stomach.
But
We needed a more stalwart individual, so they sent Tony Walker.
and let me address the elephant in the room, or
Your large head.
not in the room, I should say.
Oh,
Why?
why?
Anthony DiDomenico is not here. Who's, by the way, is just, seriously, that guy is I'm very impressed with him. Not only for losing, he's down 140 pounds, but just his attitude. Never mind how he looks, but just his attitude. Here is a guy that used to make fun of me when I used to have this thing pop on my phone to say 4 things every day I was grateful for. Mm-hmm. He's doing all the kind. He's going for walks. He's posting all these things he's grateful for. So
Okay, but now to be really fair,
right,
Anthony's old attitude was so awful
it's terrible.
that almost anything is an upgrade.
Anything's not good. It was terrible that people like. All right, he's probably going to listen to this. But some people don't want to work with him.
First of all, there's zero chance he's going to listen to this.
All right, there's some people don't want to work with him. He was so miserable to be around. I did notice something about.
I love Anthony.
I did know something about Anthony. One-on-one, he is a sweetheart. Driving to gigs, he's like, Mike, this guy's like one of my best friends. But put him in a group of people, I want to choke him sometimes. Same thing goes for Mick Thomas. One-on-one, he's a great guy, and all of a sudden you put him in a green room and you want to start drinking. What? Oh, Mick. Hey, Mick, you listening to us? Hey, not you, Mick. Different Mick Thomas. So
I like Mick Thomas.
Billy Mira chants. Billy Mira from Billy Mira and the Hitmen says,
Let's go Islanders.
Let's go Islanders. And this was, I was looking forward to this podcast because Thanksgiving we had such a beautiful win, the Rangers over the Islanders. And the Islanders have had the Rangers number for a couple of years now. Mm-hmm. And not only was it such a great win, but on Thanksgiving we got to have a whole day of that was great. And then, now we're back to the Rangers lost 2 games in a row.
The Rangers won 5-0 against the Islanders, and you were all celebratory.
Yes.
And then the Rangers ripped off 2 straight losses, including a shutout to the Philadelphia Flyers, of all people.
Stinkers.
Not a particularly strong team, the Philadelphia Flyers.
No. And on a side note, I did a comedy show for the Philadelphia Flyers last year.
That's probably what happened. That's probably where you ruined it.
I got to meet Claude Giroux, who's a sweetheart, and a few of the other players. And a friend of mine who works for the Flyers is trying to get me some of those guys to call in. It's hard to get, it's hard to get an active player to call in, but I think he's going to get me.
Let's get some old-timey Flyers.
Yeah, I think
Dave the Hammer Schultz to call in.
Now, he's going to get us, he's trying to get me Riley Cody, who is a former NHLer, but also a big marijuana activist. So we have him on the games coming up. I'm working on Pat LaFontaine. We have a friend in common.
A brilliant hockey player, played for both the Rangers and the Islanders. One of the most skilled players I've ever seen. But he unfortunately had concussion
syndrome. Yep. When he was on the Islanders, he was a big heartthrob for the ladies. They loved him. And also, he may be, unless it's changed, he may be the only NHL player to play for all three New York teams. And when you think three, you got to think Buffalo. Buffalo's New York. And he played for all three teams. I wonder if anybody else has done that so far.
We got to put one of our ombudsmen in the audience.
Ombudsman, we Timothy Tim. We need an ombudsman up there. Where's the other guy?
Somebody look it up. See if anybody's played for Buffalo, the Rangers,
Yeah.
and the
For you, what do we call them again? You puck knuckles.
the Puck Knuckles.
Our puck knuckles out there. And hey, my brother said
Hi,
hello.
Tommy Roach.
Tom, look up if any other players other than Pat LaFontaine have played for all three New York teams. We know that for a while it was just Pat LaFontaine. And Pat Panzella says, I am a marijuana activist. Well, good, Pat. That's very good. When I get Riley Cody on the podcast, you can join in. Hopefully I'll get him in a few weeks, but we have some very exciting guests on the horizon.
There you go.
We have
Ron Greshner.
Ron Greshner is going to be calling in a couple of weeks.
I'm excited about Craig Minervini.
Craig Minervini, that's going to be really exciting. Craig Minervini, a big Ranger fan, moves to Florida and gets a job announcing for the Florida Panthers. Mm-hmm. So that would be a really interesting call.
And he comes from the comedy Minervini family, all of whom played hockey.
That's right. Tough hockey players, from what I understand.
Oh, I play, as you know, I play in, elderly people leagues where we
Right.
use walkers and stuff. And
That's great.
And there's guys on my team that still tell stories about Doug Minervini.
Wow. Now, wait, Craig Minervini is the one who's announcing.
Yes.
Richie is the comedian who owned the comedy club
Yes.
inside.
Yes.
I don't think I met
Chuck
Doug yet.
Chuck also owned a comedy club.
Okay, I didn't meet Doug.
And Doug is like a fire plug. Doug was a tough dude. He was a bouncer for a while at a couple of the clubs.
Now, didn't one of them like come close to going pro or semi-pro?
I don't know. I think Doug was but we'd have to talk to Richie. But they were all skilled hockey players.
Grabner played for Timothy Tim. Said Michael Grabner played for the Islanders, Rangers, and Devils. Yeah, but also
Not Buffalo.
Not Buffalo. But that's an interesting stat. Those three teams. Also, what's his name from the Rangers on there? Brian Boyle. Mm-hmm. Brian Boyle. You know what I got to bring up? I was watching a video on the way over, and also watching the Ranger Islander game. This kid Ross Johnston on the Islanders. Have you seen him? He's one of Fort McLeod. And he got a little bit of the edge on that fight by getting McLeod on the jaw. But this kid is, oh my God.
By the way, Tommy Roach has chimed in. Marty Barone played for all three.
Marty Barone?
There you go. Goaltender Marty Barone.
Oh, Marty, is it Barone or Biron?
Barone.
Biron. Okay.
He was a goalie, and he also did the color commentary for the Rangers.
Color commentary.
Yep.
I don't know whether the word color belongs in there, but okay.
Color commentary. That's what the second. See, there's the play-by-play guy, and the color commentary guy.
Okay.
The color commentary guy interjects interesting facts. That's his job.
Right. Oh, my landscaper just joined in. Hey, Vinny Petrie, who I owe a lot of money to. I'll get that to you real soon. Vin, I'll get you.
He's stalking you, looking for his. You're stealing me from edging.
Vinny, he's like, you have a payment coming anytime soon? I'm like, I might be on another show coming up. I'll let you know. It's coming.
Shevland is SKJEVELAND because it came up on my thing.
How to do my own cleanups, stepping in dog crap. Vin.
Eric Shevland, we had a spell Shevland contest earlier, and nobody could do it. So you won. There you go. So now here's my question. You one of the things that you wanted to talk about today was the Hartford Whalers, and I was like, why the obsession with the Hartford Whalers? I know personally,
Yes.
that the shirt that you're wearing, the Hartford Whalers shirt, right there, shirt.
One of my favorite shirts that I've probably worn too much.
You told me
Yes.
that the only reason you wear that shirt is because you went to a big and tall man's shop or something, and it was like the only thing in your size they had.
I was performing at the Hartford Funny Bone, and I went to the Big and Tall store. It might have been City Steam. And I was performing there, and I went to the local Big and Tall store, and they had a Hartford Whalers shirt in my size, in cotton, because, I don't like wearing polyester because I sweat a lot, and poly makes me sweat. So this is 100% cotton, and, I did also... That's one of the reasons why I love the Hartford Whalers, and also I love the logo. But also,
That is a good logo.
It's a great logo, and from what I understand, it's still one of the best-selling jerseys on NHL.com. I also went to Hartford to see the Whalers play the Rangers when Chris Pronger was a rookie, and also I was reading today online that the Carolina Hurricanes, which ultimately the Whalers moved from Hartford to Carolina. They are. This is the first year they're bringing back they're paying respects to their history, and they're bringing back the Whalers jersey. But on the night they're bringing the Whalers jersey back on December 23rd against their geographical rival, the Boston Bruins.
Are they going to suit up Ron Francis?
Ron Francis, Pat Verbeek. Didn't Gordie Howe play there too?
Gordie Howe played when the NHL absorbed the WHA teams. They absorbed the Hartford Whalers.
That's right. Yeah.
The Edmonton Oilers, which is how Gretzky got into the NHL.
Oh.
The Winnipeg Jets, who had Bobby Hull and Anders Hedberg and Ulf Nielsen, who came to the Rangers and got leg broken by Dennis Potvin, thereby causing that annoying chant that I'm sick of. Don't do it, I'll punch you in the face.
Okay.
And what was the other team? What team? Oh, Quebec Nordique.
Quebec Nordiques.
Those are the teams that came over. Yeah, and Gordie Howe came over, and he would play on the Hartford Whalers with his sons, Mark and Marty.
I think Mark was a flyer too at one time.
Yes, for a long
Good
time.
hockey player.
Excellent hockey player. But imagine being Gordie Howe's kid. I mean, that's a lot of pressure.
That is a lot of pressure, and he still had a pretty good career, Mark Howe. And there was that we put up that funny meme on Instagram and our page. If you see it, it's a picture of Wayne Gretzky, and next to him is his brother Brett, who used to play for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they have the record of most points in the NHL by two brothers. Wayne Gretzky had like 22,850, and Brett had 4.
Mike Rogers, a very good player from Hartford.
Wow, Mike Rogers.
Danny Guire.
Mike Rogers. That's right, Danny Guire. I think was it Mike Rogers? Was it Mike Rogers? Oh no, it was maybe Robbie. There are a few players in the NHL that were known for their helmets, almost like the silhouette. There was it Butch Goring?
Butch Goring had that like almost non-existent helmet.
Butch Goring's helmet looked like
a couple of pieces of plastic taped to his head almost.
It looked like he pieced it together with rivets.
That was an old-timey helmet.
And from what I understand, Butch Goring's helmet is in the NHL. Butch Goring, Robbie Ftorek had a helmet that was like the forehead came out like this. And I always remember that helmet. Yes, Danny Guire for Rob Ftorek.
When is Danny going to be a guest on the show?
We're going to get Danny Guire in here soon.
Danny's a very knowledgeable Ranger fan.
A very intelligent Ranger fan. Again, there's 3 people since I was blessed enough to get these Ranger tickets behind the bench. There's 3 people I always take, and it's John Truson, my brother John, and Danny Guire. And some of my nieces, especially with the playoffs, and some of my nieces and nephews have wanted to come to a playoff game, and I tell them, you have not suffered enough. You have not suffered enough.
I've not felt the pain.
No, especially I brought my one nephew, Sean, to a Ranger game, and we were talking to F. Murray Abraham, name drop. And my nephew, you know what my nephew says to F. Murray Abraham? I know you're somebody famous, but I just don't know who you are. And I looked at him, I said, will you please shut your mouth? Don't ever speak again when I bring it up. And thank God Mr. Abraham had a very good sense of humor.
How great is he?
He's great. He's great because we hung out with him again.
Now that we shouldn't cuss on the show. However, I'm going to cuss.
Yes.
Because the next time we saw him, you went up to him and you said, how you doing, Mr. Abraham?
Yes.
And what was his response?
He was sitting next to me, and his agent goes, hey Murray, do you remember Chris Roach? He goes, oh, yeah. And I said, it's good to see you again, Mr. Abraham. And he leans over and he goes, Mr. Abraham, fuck you. And what a funny guy.
He was a great guy. Oh, it was a lot of fun to hang around
I didn't realize he was so funny.
A lot of fun to hang around with that guy. Who's the coolest person you've met
at the Ranger games?
Yeah, the Ranger game in the VIP lounge. I know that one time you walked in and were face to face with Messier and you almost wet your trousers.
No, I started crying. I started getting emotional and choked up, and I said, okay, my exact words from when I started getting choked up, I'm like, okay, I'm a 10-year-old girl, and I'm going to leave right now. And he started laughing hysterically. It was like something from a movie. I just walked into a room, and it was him and Alexei Kovalov, who has the personality of a tree stump, and Barry Watkins, I think, one of our favorite guys from MSG.
You know who's always great when we go there, whenever we see him, is Schoenfeld.
Schoenfeld's
always great to us. We're in the lounge. He's like, how you doing, boys?
Wait, remember he said we saw Schoenfeld online for the food at the buffet before the game, And we go, I said to him, we were just watching videos on you. And
Yeah.
what did he say?
He goes, were they in black and white?
I said, no, but they were colorful, right?
Yeah.
And he laughed.
Yeah, we were watching the.
But Schoenfeld is a guy, like, let's probably in his 60s. And he's a guy, I would say, just like Clark Gillies, that he looks like he would still give you a beating.
He'd beat you down.
He'd still, at
He's in
60
good
years
shape.
old, would still hurt you.
Yeah. Such a really nice guy, though. Really good guy.
Oh, my God,
We
so
should
nice.
we should sometime get him to call in and talk about. This is what we need to talk about at some time. Is the
Right.
The donut
incident. That was
because that was Don Koharski
Right.
was the referee. Schoenfeld, who was coaching at the time, took umbrage, if you will, with Don Koharski's officiating.
Yes.
And was yelling obscenities at him after the game, and it was all on film, and it all went out over the, in the news and stuff.
Right.
And it was like, have another donut, you fat pig. And he was like yelling at him about eating donuts and,
That's right.
and being a pig and being fat and stuff. And the officials refused to officiate the next game because what happened was Schoenfeld got suspended.
Right.
The governor of New Jersey put a stay on it so that Schoenfeld could officiate on Sunday. Then the officials walked out and they said, if he's going to be on the bench, we're not officiating the game. And they had to grab some off-ice officials, just some knuckleheads hanging around. They had to borrow skates, get them slap together some wacky uniforms, and they had 3 guys officiate the game who were not hockey officials.
And I think they were wearing like yellow practice hockey jerseys.
Yes, they started wearing yellow practice hockey jerseys, and it was called Yellow Sunday. And I know one of those guys.
Oh, it's called Yellow Sunday?
Yes,
You know one of them.
Yeah, I know one of them. Jim Sullivan, who plays in the old guy leagues that I play in. He's a good dude, and he was actually the coach and player of the first team that I played on. He was very helpful to me when I first came up. Gave me a lot of good advice and stuff. Good dude. Maybe we'll have him on and talk to him about because imagine that. Imagine you're just hanging around. The guy probably is an off-ice guy. Probably keeps some stats or something. Like, dude, suit up. You're the linesman today.
We have to have that guy on.
How crazy is that?
Just to hear what he was doing beforehand.
He's got to be going humana, 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 humana.
Just hear whatever he was maybe eating chips or something and watching the game. Hey, you're going to be on what? And that was like probably one of the only times in NHL history that the referees walked off.
Yeah. Yeah, and they didn't even have their own skates. They had to borrow skates, and it was mayhem.
I remember seeing the video footage of them walking onto the ice, and they looked like they couldn't hold back laughter. Like, this is crazy.
And it was a Stanley Cup playoff game. It was Bruins Devils. It was a Stanley Cup playoff game.
That's insane.
And they had goofballs refereeing.
When I was 18 years old, a friend of mine was reffing a deck hockey game, and it was a men's league, and he said, do me a favor, these 2 teams hate each other, will you please put this referee's jersey on and just be there in case there's any fights? He goes, you don't have to make any calls, I'll make all the calls. So it was one play where I'm sitting by the other team's bench, and he's not looking because the play is down at the other end. And one of the players takes and tomahawks a guy in the legs. I mean, pulls all the way back, whacks the guy in the leg. The guy goes falling down. And, of course, I don't call anything because I'm not a referee. And the team behind me is, ref! Didn't you see? Oh, my God! I'm like, hey, do that again, you're out of here. Meanwhile, he should have been thrown out of the game just doing that.
Yeah.
And like, why are you giving him a warning? What? And I turn around to the bench. I'm not a referee. I'm just here in case you guys fight.
Anthony DiDomenico is watching.
What?
Anthony DiDomenico is watching.
Anthony, you're supposed to be in a wake right now.
Anthony, we miss you.
We miss you.
Chris Roach will not admit it, but we miss you.
We miss your smarminess, Anthony.
And we miss the fact that you could gleefully point out that since the Rangers trounced the Islanders on Wednesday, the Rangers have lost 2 in a row.
2 in a row.
And the Islanders have now creeped back ahead of them in the standings.
Not to mention, again, we talking about this kid, Ross Johnston, who is like, damn, this guy's a beast. We were just, one of our last podcasts, we were talking about enforcers. And if you're going to be an enforcer in the NHL, you have to be able to play on a 3rd or 4th line, without a doubt. There's no just putting a Dave Brown on skates so he can fight. Obviously, I have some mental scars with Dave Brown. We'll talk about that.
Why do you have Dave Brown mental scars?
It was that cross-check to the back of Thomas Sandstrom's head back then. That was very upsetting, very upsetting.
What, do you get 15 games for that?
Something like that. But that was Thomas Sandstrom was also known for being...
He was chippy.
He was chippy. One of these guys, when he back-checked, was always tapping you on the rear end and on the gloves. And Dave Brown let him have it. So when I went to go do comedy for the Philadelphia Flyers, I was performing for them last year. I was looking at the audience for Dave Brown, like, where's that son of a bitch?
Dave Brown has done comedy.
He has.
When Dave Brown was suspended, this is true fact, he did an appearance at the Comedy Factory Outlet in Philadelphia, which is a club I used to work all the time.
Wow.
True comedy facts.
Wow.
See, Dave Brown did comedy. You are brethren with Dave Brown, although you don't want to admit it.
Oh, yeah.
You are comedy brethren.
Maybe if I had to sit down with the guy,
You could work through your issues.
yeah, maybe Dave Brown and I could work it out. But you know what the weird thing was, is when I was doing comedy, performing at their fundraiser, I was looking down and they were all wearing bright orange polos, and I'm looking down like, oh my God, they're kids. They're all like 18, 19 years old, and they just if I drop the F-bomb, they're laughing. I'm like, it's so weird. Like there's a point in time where. I always said this, you know you're getting old when you watch a player get drafted and you watch the same player retire. It's a very depressing moment. It's a very depressing moment. So, like, you know, even like Chris Kreider, who's my favorite player on the Rangers, I look up to the guy, but he's 26. My son's older than Chris Kreider, I think.
The Rangers the other night had 5 players on the ice, 20 years old or younger.
That's crazy.
That's incomprehensible.
That's it. But that's the game today. It's become a younger game. Because of speed and endurance and whatnot. So
Now you said that you want to talk about Hartford. You also said you want to talk about the original 6. What do you want to talk about? Expansion, all that kind of stuff?
well, I wanted to talk about the original 6 because Chris Kotsopoulos played on the Rangers. He played
Red
on
Wings briefly. Toronto.
That's 3 out of the original 6 right
3
there.
out of the 6.
But that was but then I started thinking. I didn't get a chance to print it up, but there was the top players. I want to talk about the defunct teams. Now, I remember when I was a kid, there was a team called the California Seals.
California Golden Seals. California Seals came
got
out.
it.
California Seals came out in the original expansion. There was, first of all, at the very beginning. See, the original 6 is nonsense because at the very beginning there was like 4 Canadian teams.
Right.
There was like
the Maroons.
I think there was
like
the
that?
original Ottawa Senators.
Yes.
There was the Montreal Wanderers. The Maroons were in the second wave.
Okay.
The Canadiens, which have been there all the time, and here's one for you: the Toronto Blue Shirts.
The Blue Shirts.
The Blue Shirts. See, the Rangers are not the first Blue Shirts.
Wow.
Then from that, it expanded to about 10 teams, and there was a Philadelphia team, a Pittsburgh team, 2 New York teams. There was the New York Americans. It became the Brooklyn Americans.
Right.
But a lot of them folded up like right around the time of World War II, about 1941, and that's where the original 6 that we know today started playing, and those were the teams for about 25 years or so.
Okay, interesting side note, if you want to see a beautiful motorcycle, the NHL store, I don't know if it's still there, but the NHL store in Manhattan has the original 6 motorcycle built by Orange County Choppers. It's a beautiful motorcycle. It's very vintage looking, cream colored, like worn leather seating.
Nice.
It's nipple pinching. So I was thinking about...
Okay, so the original the expansion after the original 6.
Right.
The California Golden Seals were one of the only teams that didn't make it from that group. Actually, the Minnesota North Stars, eventually turned into all sorts of different things.
Wait, the Minnesota North Stars went to Dallas,
The
right?
Dallas Stars.
The Dallas Stars.
They actually they might have joined together with the Cleveland Barons or something. They actually
Cleveland
consolidated
Barons.
with somebody.
I don't remember them.
But the thing about the California Golden Seals is a couple of years in, they were bought by Charlie Finley, who owned the Oakland A's at the time. And the Oakland A's, as we know, they were like the cool hip team, and their colors were green and yellow.
Yeah.
And they had white. They always wore white cleats. They were the cool baseball team. They had white cleats.
Yes.
So Charlie O decides white skates is the way to go.
Oh, that's right.
Remember those?
It looked horrible.
And the California Golden Seals had white skates for a while. They also had gold and green skates that were equally horrific.
Horrific, because the white disappeared into the ice, and
was-
there wasn't a lot of logos and coloring on the ice back then as there is today. So they just disappeared onto the ice.
So what were they? Wait, let me see what the other teams at the expansion were. The St. Louis Blues.
St. Louis Blues.
St. Louis Blues were like probably immediately the most successful.
Right.
And I've mentioned this already, but they made a crazy move that worked out unbelievably. They drafted Glenn Hall, Hall of Fame goalie who was like 40 years old.
Right.
And they unretired Jacques Plante, another Hall of Fame goalie, also 40 years old. And together, those two guys won the Vezina Trophy.
Is that crazy? I'm retiring.
Jacques Plante, nuts. When Jacques Plante was 42 years old, he had a 942 save percentage.
That's insane.
That's insane. That's one of the highest save percentages ever when he played for Toronto.
What year would you say that was?
71, 72, something like that with Toronto, his last year. But they won the Vezina Trophy, I think, in like 70 maybe with St. Louis.
Okay, Neil Sullivan mentioned the Cleveland Browns.
Barons, yeah.
Now we think they got dissolved into the North. Where?
They might have combined with the North Stars and became the Dallas Stars.
Not only is the Hartford, the defunct Hartford Whalers jersey still a popular selling item, but also the original Minnesota North Stars is still a popular. If there's two states that needs a hockey team, two places that need a hockey team, Minnesota. They got the Minnesota Wild, but also
the Seals became the Barons. The
Seals became the
moved
Barons.
to Cleveland, became the Barons, and then they merged with the North Stars.
Then they merged with the North Stars.
And became the Dallas Stars.
I was over under, and you were overdone. Airplane. Okay, so also a team that is dying, a city that is dying, or state that is dying for a hockey team right now is Quebec. The Quebec Nordiques. When the Islanders were having all those financial troubles, 3 busloads of Quebec fans drove down. Quebecers drove down in Quebec gear, and just to send a message to, I guess, Charles Wang, whoever owned the team at the time, saying, listen, it may not be working out for you here, but we will welcome you with open arms to Quebec. They all came out and they took up a whole section.
You know, we mentioned the WHA teams that came into the NHL.
Right.
The WHA, for those of you who don't know, was a competitive league that started just to compete with the NHL. They offered a lot of money to players. They robbed a lot of players. They took Jerry Cheevers. They had Derek Sanderson. They got Bobby Hull to play in the WHA. Gordie Howe played in the WHA. I
did not know
but
this.
Here's a little interesting tidbit for you, and it would be for Anthony, but Anthony is just listening to us today. The New York Raiders, who were the WHA New York team, were supposed to play in the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum.
Wow.
And sort of the way that they blocked it was the NHL promised them an NHL team, which turned out to be the Islanders. So the Islanders kind of came into being because of the threat of the WHA team coming into Nassau County.
Now, what about this team that played at that Comac Flea Market? It's Comac Flea Market now. It's the Long Island Ducks.
Long Island Ducks. Do you know who holds the scoring record for the Long Island Ducks? I bet you don't know.
I'm going to say it's an Islanders announcer, right?
No.
It's not Stan Fishlow or the other one?
What's his? I forget his. But remember when you dropped the puck at the Rangers? That guy Buzzy who dropped it.
Yes.
That guy is the all-time. He has the Ducks scoring record. He scored like 70 goals in a season or something.
That's right. He's
Buzzy, who works at the town of Oyster Bay Rink.
And he's what? He's like 80 or something?
Yeah, he's a great dude.
Great dude.
Every once in a while, he'll like stick his head in and give you like tidbits of like, hold your stick at a different angle. It's like, you know what? He's right.
That's amazing. That's like Yoda coming in and saying, wow.
Yep.
Yeah, he's very well respected over there. His picture's up and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
well, your picture's up and you're not well respected.
Yeah, that's because who we have here? We have what did Danny say? Danny Guay, the Blood League. What's the Blood? Was that a nickname for it?
No.
Danny Guay said Blood League, unless that was a nickname for the WHA. Neil Sullivan, the Colorado Rockies. We were talking about the Colorado Rockies.
With Barry Beck, they became the New Jersey Devils.
That's right.
We got a phone call.
The phone call is in.
It Chris Kotsopoulos?
You ready for him?
We are ready for
We are ready for him.
Should be there.
Hi, Chris. Are you there?
I'm here. What's going on, guys?
What's up, Chris?
I'm just sitting here like a lump of you-know-what on a log.
This is Chris Roach and my buddy John Truson here. We met actually at that game. It was like 2 years ago, and I think John was with me. You were with me too, right?
Yeah, it was the Rangers assist game out here at the town of Oyster Bay Rink that you guys all did.
Yeah, we got to meet Chris.
Yeah, I remember that. It was a couple of years ago, definitely. Yep. Doogie was there too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it was the first time I saw
my boy.
First time I saw Ron Duguay naked. But other than that, he asked me to. He goes, come. He brought me into the dressing room, and it was so cool. Like he gave me his hockey socks. I'm like, oh my god, Ron Duguay gave me his hockey socks. Then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my god, Ron Duguay's getting naked.
Listen, he works really hard hard to look the way he does. Trust
Right?
me.
He is in incredible shape. Maybe I took a peek, and he is in. He's in incredible shape. Like Chris, you're my kind of guy. You're a big guy. You're somebody that I would hang out with.
Yeah, we the rest of us that played from that era, we don't quite look the same as we did back then. But Doogie's done a great job for a guy that's like, I think he's like 61 or 62 years of age now, but he still looks like he could play.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, he still looks like, and he's aged very gracefully, Ron Duguay. Also, he texted me and he said, "Ask Chris about all the times I had to protect him in fights or."
Oh, please.
There's no truth to that?
Listen, all kids aside, Doogie could handle himself.
Yeah,
There's no question about that. I mean,
Doogie was tough.
in his prime.
Yeah.
He could handle himself, but
That-
next time you talk to him, ask him when I saved his ass from Ben Wilson.
Oh my God, Ben Wilson. What was he?
That
a
was.
Blackhawk?
Do
Or was
you know that Chris was involved? Now I've sent you a tape of this.
Right.
The wildest fight I've ever seen was a giant bench clearer with the Rangers and the LA Kings.
Right.
And I still don't. You were pounding somebody in that fight, but I'm not sure who it was.
That would be Steve Gent. He wasn't really known as a fighter, but when he did, he was supposed to be pretty good. At least that's what John D'Amico told me. The linesman that wrestled me to the ground. So
Right.
That
I
was
take a little bit of pride in that. Not much, but a little.
Yeah, I said that those linesmen back in the league back then, they were severely underpaid because they, you see the linesmen today, they just stand between players, and if you touch them, you'll get suspended. But back then, those guys were on the floor with you and wrestling, and
John D'Amico looked like a tough dude.
yeah.
Oh, he was. He was built like the old brick shit house. He was really strong. I mean, once you got a grip on you, it's pretty hard to get him off you. And plus you respected the guy too. I mean, he was a really good linesman, and he was pretty fair when it come to breaking up fights. But well, he probably saved Jensen's ass from a real bad beating that day. But that brawl is like still etched in I think a lot of us guys' minds. I mean, it was Eddie Hosper started all that crap.
That was insane.
Hosper,
And then somebody.
Yeah, it was. The people don't quite realize back then, in the 70s and 80s, what it was like. When you had a bench clearing brawl, it's every man for themselves. I mean, you can pick with the wrong guy, you could be in a whole lot of, deep doo-doo, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that's just the way it goes.
You don't know who you're going to get paired up to until you just bump into him, I
Nope.
would imagine.
No, you try to, but it's just a mass, ball of confusion out there. And I mean, I think we had a couple guys that actually went in the dressing room. I'm not going to name names, but so we were a couple men short, but it really didn't matter. We were. That's probably.
It was those
I
damn
can honestly
Swedes.
tell you, and I think a lot of Ranger fans will tell you that was probably the toughest team from number 1 to like 20 that you could put on the ice ever.
Yeah.
They may have had some tougher guys along the way.
Right.
Better fighters and stuff like that. But from 1 to 20, that team there was indestructible. Nobody could mess with us. Not even those filthy Flyers down south there a little bit.
Yeah, well, that was a different time. Like that was a time when a hockey player had to really be able to protect himself.
Oh, that was a nasty time in the NHL. We like a couple of weeks ago, we had our episode. We watched the documentary Ice Guardians, which paid tribute to a lot of the enforcers back then and how important their role is and how important it is now. But we also, Chris, before you called in, we were talking about defunct NHL teams, and one of them being the Hartford Whalers, which you had the opportunity to play on. How was
it was it was a little shock to me when I got traded to Hartford, and I didn't know quite what to expect when I got there, and I remember playing against them the year before as a Ranger, in a nice little town and all that. It probably ended up being a good thing in the long run for me. I was just starting to figure New York out a little bit, the nightlife and stuff. So, I went from the penthouse to the outhouse, basically, when it comes to nightlife. But I had a fun time there for 4 years with the players and the fans, but the organization really was just, I'll call it what it is. It was horse shit.
Right.
I mean, it was just a badly run organization at the time. I mean, they were smart enough to get a team into the NHL, but they weren't smart enough how to run it right.
Right. But meanwhile, that jersey is still a very popular jersey.
It's a great logo.
Yeah, the dark green one. The dark green ones are just awesome looking. I think it was still number 1 or number 2 or something like that,
That's right.
popularity wise. I mean, when it comes to resales, but the dark green ones are really, really cool and really sharp looking, no question.
Oh, that's right. And now the Carolina Hurricanes, they're smart enough. Finally, this year they're unveiling a third jersey, which is going to be the Hartford jersey, and they're going to unveil it against the Boston Bruins.
It's like the old school days back when we used to, you know, you got to remember back then. When I played back then, we played each other 8 times, you know, back then. Like the Bruins in your division, like same with the Rangers, you played the Flyers 8 times. So
wow,
quite a bit of a rivalry there. But you know, like those jerseys, I mean, I still have mine. I mean, my dark green one and the white one. So when you look at them, they're both pretty cool. But the dark green, just like in blue and white, just stands out so much. And it's so pop. My wife still wears a Hartford Whaler hat when we go out to the flea market and stuff like that. So,
Chris, I
had a great time living there, but I can't say much for the organization.
Yeah, I'm actually wearing a Hartford Whaler T-shirt right now that I got while performing at a comedy club in Hartford. I went to the local Big and Tall store, and they had it, and I bought it.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think my wife still has a few of our the T-shirts that we wore underneath our equipment back then. Somewhere hiding around in the house. I mean, I still have an old hockey bag from the Hartford Whalers. And if you looked at it, you'd be surprised at how small it is compared to today's, like glitzy with wheels. And geez, you can put a body in the bags now. That's how big they are. But back then, they looked like just like a big purse.
Do you remember the first time somebody presented hockey pants to you? Because I know the Whalers were one of the teams that wore them.
Oh, the long pants.
Yeah, and there's a picture.
I loved them. I don't know why we didn't keep them. I mean, I thought they were great. I mean, it was you know, I was pretty much one of those guys who simple is always better, and you know, slipping them on was a lot easier than slipping on the ones they wear now and the ones we used to wear before then. But I guess we only wore them for like a year, and that's it. They took them away. And the saddest part for me is I ended up playing like a bunch of friends in Hartford. I used to go out and play shinny and, you know, late night hockey with them at the Moose Club or something like that. And basically it was just an excuse to go out drinking. But you know, I ended up giving away all my they were Cooperalls. I can't remember which ones. They looked like Cooperalls, but I think they were CCM or something like that.
Right.
I gave like 3 pair away. I should have kept a pair.
I remember it was the Whalers, the Flyers, and maybe 1 or 2 other teams that had tried.
No, I think it was just the Whalers and the Flyers. Yeah.
Okay.
They had the all black, of course. Flyers didn't want to put anything else, but you know, they're intimidating.
Black.
They're intimidating bullshit. So.
Now, a lot of people, I'm sure, ask you about, you know, it was a tough hour and you were a tough guy and stuff like that. But what's your most memorable goal you ever scored? Because you scored some goals. You had some skills.
Yeah. Well, you know, I obviously my first goal was against Don Beaupre. You know, had that nice little run there in 1980, 81, or 81 with the.
Right.
I can't remember, he was Rookie of the Year. I remember that with Minnesota. He had a nice little run there in the playoffs, I think, that year against the Islanders or a year later. I remember that goal pretty good. It was in Minnesota, and I actually, you know, Barry Beck took the puck up the ice, and you know, he crossed the blue line, he dropped it back, and I just fired it and managed to hit the net. So that was being the first goal. And then you got to wonder what two big lumbering defensemen like us are first of all doing inside their blue line.
Right.
You know? I mean, what the hell are we doing there? But
that's got to be a dream, though. That's got to be an NHL goal. Unbelievable.
Yeah, then, you know, when I got traded, you know, I scored 13 goals the next season. I probably should have had about 20 or 25. I mean, they used me on the power play that year, and, you know, it was pretty simple for me. You know, Mark Howe, go get the puck. Chris stayed up the ice. Mark Howe, get it across the blue line. Pass it to Ronnie Francis, pass it to Blaine Stoughton, pass it back to Ronnie Francis, back to Pierre LaRouche. Okay, Kotsi, when you get it, just shoot it. You know, that was it. And I had a pretty good slap shot that, you know, a lot of people knew then, but they really didn't know about it later because once I scored that 13 goals, Hartford didn't want to pay me, so they wouldn't let me play the power play next season.
That's hysterical.
True story. It's a true story. They sat me on the bench during the power play. I still scored 6 goals, but...
That's crazy.
That's the way it worked back then. When it was time to get some loot out of people, they put the screws to you pretty good.
That is crazy because 13 goals, even in today's league, that's
for
like
defenseman,
for defenseman,
that's tremendous.
That is all-star caliber.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I tied Ray Bork that year, so I can always tell Ray Bork, and I've met him a few times since then in some legendary hockey things we do up in Canada. I can tell him, hey, you know, 1 year I was as good as you.
That is hysterical.
That's awesome.
Do you? So right now, what are you doing now? You're doing radio commentary for the Bobcats. Is that
I've been done that for 2 years now. I gave that up
okay.
2 seasons ago with Quinnipiac. It was fun for 10 years. You know, I got to go to 2 NCAA championships where the Bobcats, Quinnipiac Bobcats, lost both games, but probably should have won the first one against Yale, but came up with a clunker game. They were a better team. The second time around, they played North Dakota, and North Dakota was clearly a better team. But I gave it up after 10 years. It was fun. Everything was good, but late night traveling is not very good as you get older. Your eyes start to see things on the road.
Oh, it's that. You know
You're
what?
coming back from places like, you know, God knows why. Only God knows why they put universities up in St. Lawrence and Clarkson. They're up northern upstate. There's
crazy.
nothing there. Trust me.
I am.
You know, then you got to drive back from there, so that's a 4-hour ride in the snow and all
Yeah.
that crap. And I just finally had enough. I said, "That's it. Pack it in."
Yeah, well, Chris, as I'm 50 now, and as a stand-up comedian, I always had the rule that as long, because I don't go to bed till like 3 in the morning, so if the gig was over and the drive home was under 5 hours, I would take anything over 5 hours. I'd say I would demand a hotel. You guys got to get me a hotel. But now,
Yeah.
but now
Well,
it's.
I don't blame you.
But now it's like if I do a 3-hour there and 3-hour back, the next day I feel like I got beat up.
Well, you're doing that at 50. I was doing that in my 20s. I was staying up all night after the games on the road and stuff like that. And I figured if I could get 4 hours sleep, I'd get to sleep. If I can't get 4 hours sleep, I just stayed up.
Right.
You know what I mean? In the bars. So
Oh,
that was my rule. 4 hours. If I could get 4 hours sleep, I would go back to the hotel room. If not, I stayed up all night drinking, so it didn't matter.
I love it. Oh, I love the old days. The players too.
You know, it's just it is what it is. You got tired of the hotel. I mean, what are you going to do? You go sightseeing for the first time in all these cities, and it's okay. Seen that, done that, been there, done that, and okay. Throw the bag in the room and come back later.
Are you still doing your internet show? You have a
No, we Paulie D, a good friend of mine out of Tampa, he stopped it for 2 years. We might do it again one day.
Nice.
It's up to him because it's based out of his house and he's got like a little studio built up in his his condo that he lives in.
We got all these
we
good
might do it
plugs.
again someday.
We got all these good plugs off your website. We're being professional here.
Well, everybody's a little behind time. I'm getting old, guys. You know, soon I'll be in the Dugay Club, the Gresham Club, the Nicky Patriot Club, the Steve Vickers Club. I'll be turning 60 in a couple days. So
Wow.
these guys been busting my balls, and I'm not part of their club yet. But you know, once you get to 60, I guess it is. So. I'll officially join the Old Timers Club in a couple days. So,
well, we got to try one more. Let's see if we're 0 for 3. How is your? Do you still have the blog Kotzi's Corner or no?
No.
Oh, my.
You guys are like,
Update the
Elvis's
website.
been dead for 50 years. You know, 60, 70 years. I mean, I don't know how long has he been dead. You guys
Hold on a
are
second.
way behind on shit.
Hold on a second, Chris. Hold on.
Try again. Let's see. 0 for 4. You know,
There we
sometimes
go.
batters get 5 and 6 chances in a game.
All right. We're gonna fire our research person.
All right, now here's my question. You come from like a different time in hockey when it was a much tougher game, much rougher game. And when you watch the game today, does it like frustrate you, say when a guy runs into the goalie and nothing happens, or they're not clearing in front of the net or stuff like that? You're sitting there going, somebody clear that guy out of there, you know?
All the time. It's been that way for about 15 years now, 20 years watching for me. I know Gary Bettman's done a great job when it comes to the owners and, when it comes to filling their pockets with all the coin, but I don't think he's done a great job, and I don't think a lot of the people have done a great job that vote on rules and changes and how to better the game. I mean, I understand trying to, but I think the biggest problem the NHL has is they don't want to admit when they make a mistake, and they've made some mistakes here with let's call it what it is. They've taken the bite right out of the game.
Yeah.
There's no more fear out there. Who you got to fear, I have no idea. I mean, why would you?
Yeah.
Second of all, you got a plexiglass covering half your face, so
Yeah.
what's the worst can happen? You lose your teeth, big deal.
Well,
You know.
that was one thing that.
And clearing the front of the net. That crap started a long time ago with that guy that reminded me of from Planet of the Apes, that Thomas Holmstrom. Remember, he used to stand in front of the net.
Yeah.
In Detroit. All he used to do is stand there. I mean, guy couldn't skate, couldn't stick handle, couldn't do anything, but he scored 25 goals every year because the rule was you cannot cross-check, you cannot abuse the guy in front of the net anymore.
Remember Tim Kerr?
Yeah, Tim Curtis.
Oh
did.
God.
Yeah.
That guy was it was like a
That's
tree.
like trying to move like 5 fire hydrants.
He was a tree on skates, and he did come to the Rangers.
Very
later.
late, though.
Yeah, but what they did with him, kind of similar to Marcel Dion, is where they just used him on the power play.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah, well, he was at the end of his career. Plus, he was hurt. Timmy and I go back a long time. You guys will probably won't remember this, but one of my first exhibition games with the Rangers, we got a pretty doozy of a fight there in Madison Square Garden, and
wow.
I didn't know he was left-handed, so he kind of crossed me one right off the bat, and I kind of scrambled a little bit, but I ended up having to pull his hair a little bit to get back in the fight. So
He had
I didn't really give a shit, so I ended up evening up the fight pretty good. But that night, I was told I made the teams because the fans loved it. And it's been a while since the Rangers had anybody that stand up to the Flyers. So
Yeah.
Right.
So Timmy and I were pretty good friends. We both knew each other after that, and I played him pretty hard but clean. I mean, he was a big, strong guy. I mean, what are you going to do with the guy?
Oh my God, big! And I think 1 year he got, 2 years he got like 50 goals just by
Oh, yeah,
standing out front.
He had good hands too. I mean, it wasn't like he was just a big slug out there. I mean, you plant him in front of the net or put him in the slot, and he had a quick release and everything else. So it wasn't like he didn't have any skill.
Right.
He was just a big, strong, pretty talented guy with the stick.
Mm-hmm. Who was the toughest guy you ever remember playing against, or maybe fighting?
Oh God! See, this is a question. This is a question that I used to answer, and I'll answer it, but I'm not gonna. I will not give you any names because hockey's weird back then. One guy you had trouble with, you didn't have trouble with the next guy, but the next guy gave that guy trouble. You know what I mean? Like it's like that triangle thing where like I would say Bobby Probert was one of the toughest guys I ever played against. Clark Gillies, stuff like that. But how can you like neglect guys like Marty McSorley or Ben Wilson or to me Ben Wilson was probably one of the toughest guys that ever played.
Yeah,
one of the scariest guys that ever played too. Because some nights he felt like fighting, and some nights he'd just take a stick and stick it through your ear. It's just the way he was. And I know Ben, too. I grew up with him in Toronto. We grew up together, so we kind of knew each other. And I go back to that story about Dukes. Like I said, I'll tell you the story real quick. We were Madison Square Garden playing a game, and the whistle went up at center ice by the penalty box area there. And back then, there was no glass in the penalty box. So Ben and him are doing a little jostle, so I come flying in there, and I give Ben a little shot. And Ben looks at me, goes, Chris, he goes, you tell that, that F and whatever. And I said, Ben, I said, you know what? I said, he's my teammate. I said, if I have to, I'll take care of him. I'll take care of you if you do. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. And I kind of shoved Doogie out of the way. I didn't want to get his perm all messed up. Come on, dude. Was that, I nicknamed him the Poodle. You know that, right? Back then.
Poodle.
I nicknamed him the Poodle. Look, come on, didn't he look like a French
That's
poodle?
hilarious.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, Chris, I thought that's a question I wanted to ask you. Like, what was your nickname? What did they call you on the ice, players?
Well, they called me the Big Greek there in the Big G in New York. When I was in Toledo in the minor leagues, they called me Bubba.
Okay, I see that.
And then it was the Big G most of the way after that, the Big Greek.
All right.
There was always a little joking going on with the older guys like Kachuk and Vickers, and they didn't know who the real Big Greek was because Nicky Vatia was Greek and I was Greek. But I told them, I said, listen, I said, technically I'm full Greek. He's only half Greek. He's half Italian. I said, so he can't be the real Big Greek. They were just trying to bust my balls about it, though.
Nice.
So what do you, Chris? What do you got going on now? Are you working on anything? Anything coming up?
No, I'm just sitting back right now enjoying the holiday. I got some skates up in Canada coming up in January where I'll be representing the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then I'll be representing the New York Rangers too. So
very cool.
These are like some we tour these towns, and one of the games is out in outdoor rink where Day Claim Hockey was invented in Nova Scotia, Windsor, Nova Scotia.
Oh, wow.
They claim it's the beginning of where hockey was. It's an outdoor game, so it's going to be like kind of like the old days when we were kids, where you just you get out there with your jeans on and your skates.
Oh, that's fun.
Obviously, they'll give us a sweater and stuff like that represents our team, and
that's awesome.
we'll be out there for 2-3 days. I don't know with the boys out there. There better be lots of booze.
That sounds like fun. We got to catch you next time you're around here, though.
And hopefully there'll be some stuff with the Rangers too. I think the alumni games are starting soon. Like we don't get to play in all of them; they spread it around pretty good. And,
okay.
stuff like that. That's about it.
All right.
Just
All right,
play a little
brother.
hockey here and there, do a few events for the Rangers, and go to a game once in a while, hook up with the boys. When I go to the games, I don't even watch the game. I just, I hang out to see my friends.
There you go. All right, well, we totally appreciate you calling in. That is absolutely awesome, and we'll look for you the next Rangers Assist or whatever the alumni games they have out here.
Yeah.
We will be there, sir.
Boys. Enjoy the rest of the day. Wasn't there supposed to be some games on there, like football or something? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh well, I'm a Jets.
I don't
fan,
watch
so,
it anymore,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, I haven't been a big fan of football lately. So it's
Yeah, I don't want. I stopped watching when these guys just got a light bulb in their head and said we're going to start kneeling. So.
yep. I'm on that boat too. Yep.
All right, well, have a good day, sir.
Yeah, all right, guys. Good talking to you.
So
All
thanks,
right,
Chris.
Thank you.
See ya.
The great
See ya.
Chris Kotsopoulos. They 13 goals in one season with Hartford. That's
that-
very impressive.
But that is insane. Those are the things that you don't hear about.
13 goals, 20 assists. That's a very respectable defenseman output.
That's like an all-star defenseman.
Yes.
That's like a first-round draft pick. Those are first-round draft pick stats. Now, that's so weird that it's something you don't hear about in the media, these behind-the-scenes things, that they took him off the power play because he was scoring too many goals. And when you have a great season, obviously you have a leg to stand on to ask for more money the next year. So they took him off the power play just so they didn't have to pay him more.
That's a different time, man. That's like where they were really kind of skinflints in the front office.
Right.
That's bad, man. Holy mackerel.
I feel like I was in a similar situation, but I won't bring that up. But anyway, listen.
I got to look something up. As I told you, my friend Stu Grover, who was watching, who was my best friend when we were kids, we went to the first hockey game together with Stu's dad. And it was a Ranger game, Canadians, Rangers, Stanley Cup playoff game.
Right.
And I remember the set, because he asked me a question here, and I was going to try and look this up before, so now I have to do it for next week. He asked me who the goalies were, because here's what happened. In the prior game, there was a big brawl. And John Ferguson, remember John Ferguson?
Yes.
John Ferguson fought Reggie Fleming, who was the Rangers tough guy.
Right.
And entering the fight was Gump Worsley and Eddie Giacomin. The goalies were involved, and they were all suspended. So the game that we went to, there was backup goalies playing. And now I have to look up who it was. I want to see, it might have been Villamure. Might have
was
been
the
an
backup
early
goalie?
Villamure game, to be honest with you.
Do you remember seeing those fights? I mean,
No, well, I remember heering them on the radio.
Right.
You
I wonder who
back
won
in the, like the 1930s when we were kids. They didn't even have cable in those days, buddy.
I love seeing the old black and white footage. All right, we got a few more minutes.
Now, what do you want to?
We got a few more minutes. We could probably take a call from we got about 8 minutes if anybody wants to call in. What is the number there?
I don't know.
Tony, what's the number for people? Not the top one. We don't give them the top number. We give them the second number.
Oh,
Not the three.
the 844.
Yeah, it's 1-844-646 laugh LAFF. So it's 1-844-646-laugh.
You can also type it in the comments.
Or 5233.
You can type it in the comments.
Oh, I'm going to type it in the comments. We
Come
got
on.
time for a 5-minute call, and we were still talking about defunct hockey teams. Where did we leave off with that, John Treason?
Well, we were talking about the original expansion,
Right.
and then we came up to the Islanders who came in.
Right.
You putting it in?
I'm putting the number in 646 5233. Did I do that right? Yeah, there's a number.
All right. You think
There's
that's the number? You think that's it?
I think that's the number. And you Puck Knuckles, and that's the name of our fans, by the way. Any of you Puck Knuckles want to call in and talk about hockey? We got about 5 minutes left on the show to kill.
Going back to the original expansion, this was striking to me because I heard that they were interviewing Schneider. I think it was Ed Schneider was the original owner of the Flyers.
Right.
First of all, he's the guy who his team in the playoffs got physically dominated by the St. Louis Blues. St. Roughshod over him.
Right,
And he
I
said,
saw that. Yeah.
Look, that's never going to happen to one of our teams again.
Right.
So they just started accumulating tough guys, which is what led to the Broad Street Bullies. He said, if we can't beat them on the ice, we can sure as hell beat them up.
Beat him up. I don't remember the St. Blues being a.
They were tough. They had
okay.
Barclay Plager. You know who I always remember on the Blues from back in those days because he wore glasses on ice with no was Al Arbor. Al Arbor played defense for the St. Louis Blues.
The architect.
Yes, and he and he would sit there and he would play with glasses on. That was crazy. Al Arbor played ice hockey
insane.
in the NHL, no helmet, glasses on.
You could end up with an eye injury. God forbid, be another Brian Berard, who played great with one eye, by the way. Chris Kotsopoulos just chimed in, our guest that was just phoned in. He says he loves our jersey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris, for calling in.
If you look
We
at John-
really appreciate it. I got my
Yeah,
I got my Jokers, my Arkham Jokers jersey.
Yes, John will wear a unique jersey every week.
I try to wear odd jerseys.
He's got his Game of Thrones jersey. He's got his dude jersey from the movie The Big Lebowski.
But now just before Schneider was saying when interviewed that the first couple of years after they expanded, they didn't even let those guys participate in the draft.
Wow.
You know when you draft the players each year?
Right.
The expansion teams were not allowed to draft. Only the original 6 were. What a
wow.
scam that was. But then like the
Yeah.
third year, they let them participate.
It took the NHL a while to get it right. Pretty much they started, and I don't know why they resisted so long. Just look at successful businesses like the NFL and just do what they're doing. Just do what they're doing. Don't we have the same as baseball, or we have the same divisions now, the Eastern and something like that, Eastern, Pacific, Standard, whatever it is. But I was also thinking about not only defunct NHL teams, but teams that have been bounced around from state to state. Like I remember when the Team USA won the gold medal, and
1980 Olympics.
and the goaltender, what was his name again? Went over to the Atlanta Flames. What was the goaltender for the? I'm having a brain fart.
Craig?
Yeah, Jim Craig, right?
Yep.
Jim Craig.
Jim Craig. I think he also was on the Bruins.
Yeah, he went over to the Atlanta Flames, which is now the Calgary Flames.
Mm-hmm.
So, anywho.
Yeah, there was a lot of guys that came up. Perhaps the greatest, like the greatest string of fortune was who's the guy who went to the Islanders? Defenseman. He won a gold medal. 1980.
Oh, yeah.
1980 gold
Ken Morrow?
medal. Yes, Ken Morrow wins the gold medal, Miracle on Ice, immediately joins the Islanders, and wins 4 straight Stanley Cups.
Oh, God.
Wow.
And he has one of the most painful goals in Rangers history. We were eliminated by a Ken Morrow wrist shot, and I'll never forget it because I was at my grandmother's house who lived behind Nassau Coliseum.
Was Grandma cussing?
No, but when you walked out, I'm telling you walked out front in Uniondale where she lived, and you could hear people in every bar screaming, and people driving up and down Union Turnpike or Hempstead Turnpike. It just, I don't want to talk about it. It's
Doug
painful.
King says, "Go Islanders." I'm with you,
Yeah.
Doug. We're rooting for everybody this year. We're filled with love for our fellow man.
We are filled with love. Oh, you know what I just seen that just came out? It's a movie. It's like the Bob Probert story.
Really?
I don't know if it's what we're thinking about. Every week we're going to try to either have a caller come in, or we'll have a documentary for the Puck Knuckle fans, you guys, to watch, and we'll discuss it on the following.
Stu Grover's giving me a hard time now because I want to look something up. All right, I'm going with Gilles Villemure then, Stu Grover. That's my answer. Who is Gilles Villemure? There you go. Now you have to look it up and tell me whether I'm right or wrong. And I'm going to say the backup goalie for Montreal that year was Regation Vachon. How about that? How about that? That's the 2 goalies I'm going with. That's what I'm going with.
Well, you know what? Yesterday I worked with this funny kid named Daniel Tirado. Remember we met him?
Yeah. He's from Montreal.
Yeah, and we're in the car driving, and we're talking, all of a sudden his phone rings, and he goes, "Oh, excuse me," and he grabs his phone, he's like, I'm like, oh my God, he speaks fluent French, I guess. Cause
Is this shocking to you? He's from Montreal.
I don't know, I guess I wasn't expecting that.
We don't even speak
He's
fluent
like,
English.
I'm like, okay. And, it's those Habs.
The Habs.
I want to go to the Montreal Comedy Festival so I can play in the industry versus comedians hockey game.
Those guys are really serious.
And I'm serious too. I may not
You
run.
wouldn't last 8 seconds.
Well, I'm not going to run.
Well, then you're not. These guys are going to run. These guys are in shape.
I'm going to start a hockey league called. No, you get 2 minutes.
When are you
going
to skate? We got a minute and a half.
All right, I'm skating.
How about tomorrow? How about tomorrow afternoon?
What's tomorrow? Monday.
Tomorrow lunchtime.
Possible.
Lunchtime hockey
Where?
at Town of Oyster Bay. Town of Oyster Bay. I think they have noon. They have hockey. It's usually pretty. Just no clinic, no drills. Just skating around, just relaxing.
You
We'll
know
throw the
what?
puck around a little bit.
Maybe I will because.
Maybe it's not a commitment.
Yes, I got my blood work back, and now not only am I on statins for my cholesterol, but now they want me to take something for triglycerides.
Doug King, by the way, says try sled hockey. Let me tell you something. Doug King plays. You play sled hockey,
Sled
right,
hockey.
Doug?
Oh, that is
sled
insane.
hockey is rough. I went to one of the tournaments they had at the Northwell Health Center.
I would love
and
to
man,
see sled.
those guys are serious. I'm like, wow,
I saw that in the Olympics, and I was blown away. I'm
it's
like,
tremendous.
how does not somebody die playing? Because these guys sitting on these sleds because of a handicap, strap themselves into these long knives, and they have a stick in each hand.
Yeah,
right?
nothing but respect for those guys because
I'm sure.
they're propelling themselves with their arms and
Arms.
shooting with their arms.
And I wonder if the gloves have any kind of something on it to dig into the ice.
No, the stick on the not shooting end of the stick has a little spike thing. Is that right, Doug?
They got a spot.
Doug, help me out here.
Yeah, they got weapons.
I think they have like a little spiky thing that digs into the ice on the flip end of the. No, it doesn't. Then how do you propel yourself, Doug? Come on, tell me this.
It is just insane.
Call in.
Every time I watch sled hockey and the players go into the corner, I feel like I got to turn away. I'm like, somebody's going to get their jugular cut or something. It is just an insane game. It's just hockey to it's a crazy version of hockey.
It's like a knock hockey.
Doug King said, who plays sled hockey, says it's like knock hockey. Yeah, but it's knock hockey, but you can get killed. I think that's got to be one of the most dangerous games I've ever seen. Is sled hockey. That's crazy.
Yeah. We should go when they have one of those tournaments because I went last time because our friend Renee who does the clinics is involved.
Yeah.
So we went to support. Yeah, and it was great.
We will. Doug, let me know next time there's any kind of sled.
We are there
because he was playing on a team. I think Doug. Let me know if there's any kind of sled things going on locally. We'll come down.
And shame Roach for not getting his butt out on the ice. Come on, get your butt out on the ice.
Play it for me. Shame. I think somebody's calling in. Is somebody calling in?
Shame.
Shame.
Shame. Shame.
Shame.
Shame.
Shame.
Shame. All right, there you go. Now, I say commit to it. Lunchtime tomorrow. Just do it.
Wait, are they doing drills tomorrow? Because I don't want to die.
No. It's just a bunch of open ice, and we'll just do it.
Doug King is on the phone.
Doug King is on the phone.
Doug, all right, we'll take a quick call
All
from
right,
Doug.
Doug, how you doing, baby?
Hey guys, how are you?
Very good.
Guys, what they use is like a knock hockey stick, but a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
And there's picks on the end of those sticks.
Okay, it's a little pick.
A pick's made of metal?
And that's it's usually like a nail or something.
So it's a
And
shiv.
That's how they propel themselves around the ice.
So,
Wow.
so that you're sitting on these giant samurai swords and you have a shiv in each hand, is what you're saying, Doug.
Yes.
I got it. Again, I said, every time I watch them play in the Olympics, it's
tremendous.
It's so exciting. But when they go into the corner, you're like, oh my God, somebody's going to die in the corner.
And Lochi, they do make the sleds in all shapes and sizes.
I ain't getting on a sled. Let me learn.
Come on, dude.
You, brother, let me know. We'll come down and support you.
Yep.
Absolutely. No, that is a tough, rough sport. And I was just skating. I was at a public session, and there were a bunch of sled hockey guys just like working out, and they were flying around. I'm like, wow, these guys, they're quicker than I can go without the sled. I'll tell you that.
Oh my God, did they challenge to play you at all? No.
No, but these guys were flying.
I love going to the skates where I'm skating around, I'm playing, I'm enjoying myself, and then somebody comes over, hey, you want to scrimmage? And I'm like, scrimmage? You mean actually play? Meanwhile, I'm just skating around like a gazelle, like la 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 la. I'm getting cardio. I'm getting my cardio in. And no, I don't want to play anything manly.
Yeah, I went to open hockey last week, and I forgot all the college kids were off. So that was mayhem.
Just like going to a movie. Like you show up to the movie theater, I'm like, what the hell are all these cars doing here? Damn college kids.
All right, well, thanks for calling in, Doug. We're going to wrap it up, but thank you for the info, and definitely let us know. We'll come down. We'll support.
You got it. I'll talk to you guys later.
Love you, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Love you.
Very cool. Doug King.
Doug King,
calling
the man.
in. The man. He's the man. All right, does that wrap us up?
That wraps us up. I'll make an announcement during the week whether I know we have guests coming up, but next week I think is open, so I'm not sure if we're going to have maybe Aaron Asham, or maybe we may do another documentary. We shall see. I will let you know.
All right, baby.
Puck Knuckles.
Puck Knuckles. We are signing off now. We've had a fun day. We had the great Chris Kotsopoulos calling in. We had no Anthony DiDomenico gloating about the Islanders catching the Rangers.
Oh.
Ah.
Let's do a Police Squad ending.
That was good. All right, hit the thing, Roach. It's time.
Oh.
Yeah, we're good.